Once upon a time, they told you stories to make you feel safe. Castles, princes, happy endings. But they left out the lies. I'm Mr. Never After. I don't tell stories the way they want them told. I tell them the way they really ended. Real fairy tales end. Happily never after. New stories every week. Subscribe if you're not afraid of the truth.
These are not the fairy tales you grew up with, not bedtime stories to tuck you in, but warnings, born of hunger, blood, envy, and fear. Long before Disney softened the edges, these tales were brutal lessons. A girl devoured her grandmother by candlelight. A sleeping maiden woke not to a kiss, but to twins. Cinders and blood filled a slipper, and dancing shoes burned red hot until death. Tonight, we'll pull apart the stories you thought you knew. Little Red Riding Hood, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, Snow White, Hansel and Gretel, The Little Mermaid. 6 classics, fractured back to their darkest bones. If you came looking for happily ever after, you're in the wrong place. Grandma didn't just get eaten. In the oldest versions, Little Red is the meal. Before Perrault and the Brothers Grimm softened the blow, Little Red is a survival test. A girl, a wolf, and a path that punishes naivete. In the 14th, 15th century, the story of Grandmother. The wolf kills Grandma, drains her blood into a bottle, chops her flesh into a dish, then invites Red to eat. She does, unknowing. Have some meat, have some wine. She drinks her grandmother's blood. She devours her flesh. The wolf tells her to undress, piece by piece, and throw each garment in the fire. You won't need them. The bed creaks. The eyes grow bigger. The teeth, well, we know that line. But in this raw version, there's no woodsman rescue. Little Red outsmarts the wolf. She asks to go outside to relieve herself. He ties her with a thread. She loops it on a bush and runs. A reminder, not innocence, but wit saves her. This tale wasn't to tuck you in, it was to keep you alive. And if you think that's dark, wait until a sleeping beauty wakes to a nightmare she never consented to.
In Beauty and the Beast, what does Gaston use to decorate the walls of his tavern? In The Little Mermaid, what color is Ursula's magical shell necklace? In Frozen, what's Prince Hans's kingdom called? What animal does Yzma accidentally get turned into during the Emperor's New Groove?
She doesn't wake with a kiss. She wakes with twins. We know the prick and the slumber. But in Giambattista Basile's 1634, Sun, Moon, and Talia, a king discovers the sleeping girl and violates her. While Talia sleeps, she bears twins, Sun and Moon. One infant sucks the poison flax from her finger. She wakes into a world that already used her. The king's wife discovers everything. She orders the cook to kill the children and serve them to the king. A feast of your own blood. The cook saves them in secret, serving goat instead. The queen commands Talia burned alive. At the last second, truth fires back. The cook reveals the saved children. The queen and her conspirators are cast into the flames instead. Our happy ending sits on ashes. Ready for another? This one slipped into glass slippers filled with blood. The slipper fits because flesh is cut. Across Eurasia, from China's Yexian to Europe's grim Aschenputtel, Cinderella is the dream of upward mobility in rigid societies. But the road up is paved with pain and piety. Before fairy godmothers, there is a mother's grave, a hazel tree, and doves that grant wishes when the world won't. Ball invitations, ash and labor, a dress from the tree watered by tears. She dances, escapes, leaves a golden slipper. The prince hunts the foot that fits. The stepmother instructs the first daughter, cut off your toe. When you're queen, you won't need to walk. The prince rides with her, until doves sing. Turn and peep, there's blood in the shoe. The second sister slices her heel. Again, the birds betray the lie. In Grimm, it's not magic wands, but faithful birds and a grave tree that clothe Cinderella. In Perrault, a fairy godmother polishes the courtly veneer. Glass slipper, pumpkin, mice. Etiquette fantasy for salons, not farm kitchens. Some Slavic versions test Cinderella with impossible tasks. In others, the stepmother is aided by witchcraft. But everywhere, the test is the same. Virtue under pressure. The shoe is identity. A perfect fit no knife can counterfeit. The birds are conscience. The tree is memory that answers grief with grace. The stepfamily's self-mutilation exposes the cost of shortcuts. Modern versions sell sparkle. The old ones demand character, and they keep a receipt. Speaking of receipts, in the next wedding, the music doesn't stop until the shoes glow red.
What's the name of the group of villains in Hercules who help Hades unleash the Titans? What instrument does Gaston use as a mug in Beauty and the Beast? Which villain has a pet named Lucifer? Entangled, what food does Mother Gothel bribe Rapunzel with?
Picture a king so desperate for a daughter, he vows to execute all 12 of his sons the moment a girl is born. Disney never filmed that scene. Tonight, we will. Long ago, a kingdom thrived beneath emerald hills. A proud king ruled it with 12 healthy princes. No daughters, no heirloom embroidery, only boys and swords and promise. But one night, an oracle whispered a prophecy. If your next child is a girl, she alone must inherit the throne. Your sons must die. The king did not question fate. He ordered 12 tiny coffins, their lids engraved with each prince's name. His queen, heart pierced by dread, ran to her children. She pressed her lips to the eldest's ear and said, "Flee before dawn. Hide in the black forest. Watch the castle tower. If I raise a red flag, you are safe." When the moon sank, 12 silhouettes slipped across the drawbridge, barefoot, breathless, nameless. In the maze of the forest, the brothers built a fortress of thorns. There they forged a vow. If a maiden ever crosses our gate, she dies, for a sister means our doom. Seasons blurred, leaves reddened, fell, returned. They hunted, they hardened, they forgot their given names, known only by numbers scratched on bark. 7 years passed like a single endless heartbeat. Back at the castle, the queen finally bore a daughter, rose-cheeked, silver-eyed. She named her Benedicta. When Benedicta turned 12, she found a cedar chest beneath her mother's bed. Inside lay 12 tiny shirts, each stitched with a golden crown. "Mother," she asked, "why do I have 12? Tears answered first, then the truth. "Your brothers live or die because of you." Benedicta's world fractured, but her resolve sharpened. She wrapped food in linen and slipped beyond the walls, following the old map her mother sketched in whispers. Days later, exhausted and mud-stained, she found the Thorn Fortress. No one was home. She swept the floor, cooked stew, mended hunting nets, hoping the owners might spare her. At dusk, the forest roared with bootsteps. 12 men burst inside, blades drawn. They nearly struck, until the youngest saw a silver star birthmark on the stranger's wrist, the very mark each brother bore. Swords clattered, arms wrapped tight. Brothers and sister wept in reunion. Joy, however, is fragile in grim lands. In a nearby clearing glowed 12 white lilies, luminous beneath moonlight. Benedicta, wishing to honor her brothers, plucked them for a table bouquet. Thunder cracked, petals disintegrated into black feathers. The brothers shrieked, twisting into ravens, and erupted into the sky. A spirit of the forest rose from shadow and spoke. Only silence can save them. Speak not, laugh not, weep not for 7 years. Sew 12 nettle shirts, and their curse will break. Benedicta bit her tongue until blood blossomed, and she nodded. Year 1. Silence tasted of nettles and salt tears. She stitched until her fingers blistered, nursing 12 wild ravens perched nearby. Year 3. Winter ice cracked the needles, but she kept sewing. Year 4. A distant king hunting deer discovered the mute girl beneath a pine. Captivated, he carried her to his palace and made her queen, despite court whispers that a silent bride is surely a witch. Benedicta bore children, still mute, still sewing. But the king's stepmother dripped poison into every ear. She hides her tongue because it utters spells. She has sacrificed her babes to demons. The old woman stole the newborns, smeared blood upon Benedicta's lips, and cried murder. The court, afraid of silence, condemned the queen to the stake. The final hour, 6 years and 364 days had passed. As torches licked the pyre, an hourglass spilled its last grains. From the dusk storm surged a cyclone of ravens. They circled fire and flame, screeching until sparks died. Feathers fell, bones reshaped, flesh reformed. 12 princes emerged, cloaked in black and breathing fury. Benedicta flung the nettle shirts across their shoulders, completing the vow. At last she spoke, voice raw yet strong. In silence, I learned love proves itself through suffering. The princes exposed the stepmother's crimes. The wicked woman met the fate she designed for another. Benedicta ruled beside her husband, her brothers free at her court. Far away, their birth father, the king who chose prophecy over blood, died alone, haunted by 12 coffins he never used, and the dark moral lingered. Fear can birth cruelty, silence can forge redemption. But in the forests of Grimm, someone always pays the price.
Captain Hook wasn't the villain. He was the only survivor. We've been told that Captain Hook was a ruthless pirate, obsessed with hunting down Peter Pan. But what if the story was twisted? What if Hook wasn't chasing Peter to hurt him? What if he was running from him? A long time ago, James Hook was just a boy like any other. He was taken to Neverland by Peter, just like all the others before him. At first, it was paradise. No rules, no parents, no bedtime. But then, he started noticing something. The lost boys never got older. They should have. Years passed, but they stayed the same. Then, one of them vanished. When Hook asked Peter what happened, he just smiled. He broke the rules, Peter whispered, so I sent him away. That night, Hook heard something, a horrible, wet, crunching sound from deep in the woods. He never saw that lost boy again. One by one, the lost boys disappeared. Hook knew he had to leave, but Peter never let anyone leave. So he ran. But as he reached the shore, something burst from the trees. Peter wasn't smiling anymore. His eyes were black. His teeth were too sharp. "Where do you think you're going?" Peter hissed. Hook turned to the only way out, the sea. He jumped onto an abandoned pirate ship, cut the ropes, and let the wind take him far, far away. Peter screamed, but he didn't follow. He just watched, grinning. Hook thought he was safe. But he had escaped Peter's island with a price, the crocodile that haunted him. It wasn't an ordinary beast. It was something Peter sent after him, a creature that never stopped hunting. One night, Hook barely escaped with his life, but the monster took his hand. He replaced it with a hook, vowing to never go near Neverland again. But deep down, he knew Peter was still watching.
In The Emperor's New Groove, what's the name of the potion that Isma intended to use on Kuzco before turning him into a llama? and Hercules, which titan does Hades release first to attack Mount Olympus? In Sleeping Beauty, how does Maleficent refer to herself during her entrance at Aurora's christening? In The Little Mermaid, what color are Ursula's magical spell clouds when she casts her magic?
In the beginning, there was darkness. The ocean held its breath as Maui, demigod and trickster, gazed into the abyss. You may know him from Moana, the cheeky hero with a magical fishhook, but the real Polynesian legend is far darker. This is the tale of how Maui's greatest ambition led to his downfall and his death. Maui had done the impossible, snared the sun, fished up islands, and gifted humanity fire. Yet one enemy remained unconquered, death itself. Mortals aged and died, and Maui couldn't bear it. What if he could defeat death? His plan? To confront Hinenui-Tepo, the goddess of death, and steal immortality for humankind. With his companions, tiny forest birds, Maui found Hinenui-Tepo asleep. Her colossal body stretched across the land, and between her thighs lay obsidian teeth, razor sharp, deadly. Maui's plan was audacious: enter her body and exit through her mouth, destroying her from within. Stay silent, he warned his companions. No matter what happens, do not laugh. As Maui slipped into the goddess's body, the world held its breath. Inch by inch, he ventured inward. For a moment, it seemed Maui might succeed until a tiny fantail bird, unable to contain itself, giggled. Hinenui-Tepo's eyes snapped open, her massive legs clamped shut. With a sound like splitting mountains, the obsidian blades crushed Maui in an instant. The hero who had challenged gods was gone. And so, Maui's final quest ended in tragedy. His death ensured that mortality remained humanity's fate. No cheerful songs, no triumphant return, just a stark reminder: even demigods can't cheat death. The red hues of sunrise, legend says, are Hinenui-Tepo's glow, forever guarding the boundary between life and death. Did this darker side of Maui's legend surprise you? Comment below with your thoughts. If you enjoyed this journey into ancient myths, like this video, and subscribe for more stories you won't hear in the movies. Until next time, remember, heroes may fall, but their legends live on.
Wait, what if I told you that Hercules and Ariel, yes, that Hercules and that Little Mermaid, are actually cousins? Sounds wild, right? But when you dive into Disney lore and Greek mythology, it starts to make sense. Let's break it down. First things first, in Greek mythology, Hercules is the son of Zeus, the king of the gods. Ariel, on the other hand, is the daughter of King Triton. So how are they related? Well, in mythology, Triton is the son of Poseidon, god of the sea, and Poseidon is Zeus's brother. That makes Triton Zeus's nephew, and by extension, Ariel is Poseidon's granddaughter. So if Zeus is Hercules' father, and Poseidon is Ariel's grandfather, that makes Hercules and Ariel first cousins, once removed. Family reunions at Mount Olympus must be wild. Okay, so that's the mythology side, but what about Disney? Is there any evidence in the movies? Actually, yes. In The Little Mermaid, when King Triton arrives at Ariel's grotto, there's a subtle nod to the wider Disney universe. And in Hercules, during his training montage, there's a blink and you'll miss it moment where Hercules throws a lion pelt that looks a lot like Scar from The Lion King. Disney loves sprinkling Easter eggs that connect different movies. Plus, Ariel's father, King Triton, is shown wielding a trident, a symbol closely associated with Poseidon, further linking the worlds of The Little Mermaid and Hercules. So why does this theory resonate so much with Disney fans? Well, it's simple. People love the idea that the Disney universe is more connected than it appears. Thinking of Ariel and Hercules as family adds a fun layer to their stories. Imagine a scene where Hercules visits Atlantica and Ariel teaches him how to swim. Or Hercules lifting a giant clam for fun while Sebastian freaks out. It's theories like this that make Disney movies even more enjoyable to rewatch. Fans love piecing together these connections and imagining a larger Disney world beyond what's on screen. Sure, Disney takes creative liberties, but the mythology foundations are hard to ignore. Hercules' family drama with Zeus mirrors Triton's protective relationship with Ariel. Both deal with strict parental figures, impossible challenges, and finding their true place in the world. Plus, let's not forget, both characters come from royal lineages. Hercules from Mount Olympus, Ariel from Atlantica, cousins ruling the sky and sea. Sounds like a crossover waiting to happen. So, is this all just a coincidence, or did Disney intentionally hint at a shared universe? Could we one day see a movie where Hercules and Ariel team up for an epic land and sea adventure? Comment below with your thoughts. Do you buy this theory, or do you think it's just a fun fan-made connection? If you've spotted any other hidden Disney links, share them. We might feature your comment in the next video. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button for more Disney theories, trivia, and hidden connections. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss out on more mind-blowing Disney facts. Until next time, keep wondering, keep questioning, and remember, Disney stories are often more connected than they seem. See you soon.
Prepare to have your childhood shattered. Finding Nemo might just be Pixar's darkest film, hiding sinister secrets beneath its ocean waves. You won't believe these 3 chilling theories that could change everything you thought you knew about Marlin and his unforgettable journey. Finding Nemo, a heartwarming tale of a father's journey across the ocean to find his lost son. Or is it? What if everything we thought we knew about this beloved Pixar classic was a lie? There has been a lot of debate over what really happened to Marlin's wife and all his children. Some theories suggest that the true story is much darker than we ever imagined. Here are the top 3 dark theories about Finding Nemo and the shocking secrets they reveal. Theory 1. Marlin ate his own family. The film opens with tragedy. A barracuda attack that supposedly wipes out Marlin's wife, Coral, and all but one of their eggs, Nemo. But what if the real monster wasn't the barracuda, but Marlin himself? In reality, male clownfish have been observed eating their own eggs, especially if they sense something is wrong with them. Some even turn on their mates, consuming their fellow clownfish. Could it be that Marlin, overwhelmed by stress or instinct, devoured his own family? And then there's the name Nemo, which translates to no one in Latin. What if Nemo isn't real at all? What if he is nothing more than Marlin's hallucination, a way to cope with the horrific truth of what he has done? The barracuda attack? Just a fabricated cover story, a tale to keep himself from facing the gruesome reality. Or maybe there never was a barracuda at all. Theory 2. Nemo never existed. Narrator somber and eerie. We all saw it, the barracuda attacking, Coral and the eggs vanishing. But what if none of them survived? What if Marlin was left alone, drifting in his grief, and he imagined Nemo to fill the void? Consider this. The film follows the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, despair, and acceptance. Marlin spends the entire journey trying to find Nemo, but in reality, he's struggling to accept his loss. And then there's Dory, his only real companion. She has short-term memory loss, making her the perfect witness to Marlin's delusion. She never questions Nemo's existence because she simply doesn't remember enough to do so. By the end of the movie, Marlin has learned to let go, and Nemo goes off to school. Is this a metaphor for Marlin finally moving past his grief, accepting that Nemo never existed? Was the adventure just a figment of his imagination? Theory 3. Coral ate the eggs and Marlin escaped with Nemo. Narrator, intriguing and suspenseful. In nature, female clownfish are known to eat their own eggs, especially if they sense something is wrong. And what do we see in the movie? One lone egg, damaged, different. What if Coral herself devoured the others, leaving only one surviving egg, the one that would become Nemo? Marlin, realizing what was happening, took the egg and fled, escaping to a new reef to protect the last remnant of his family. This could explain Marlin's obsessive protectiveness. his fear of the open ocean, and his constant anxiety. If he had to flee across the vast unknown to save Nemo, his trauma would explain why he never lets his son out of his sight. Maybe it wasn't the barracuda Marlin was running from. Maybe it was the memory of what Coral had done. So what do you think? Was Marlin a grieving father, or something far more disturbing? Was Nemo ever real, or was he a symbol of Marlin's guilt and denial? Did Coral betray her own offspring? We may never know the truth, but these theories make one thing clear. Finding Nemo might be a much darker story than we ever imagined. What's your take on these theories? Let us know in the comments. And if you love mind-blowing movie theories, like this video and subscribe for more. Because sometimes, the stories we know best hide the darkest secrets.
The realm of fairy. At eve, the primrose path along, the milkmaid shortens with a song her solitary way. She sees the fairies with their queen trip hand in hand the circled green, and hears them raise, at times unseen, the ear-enchanting lay. Reverend John Logan, Ode to Spring, 1780. Chapter 1. Fairy tales and the ancient mythology, the compensations of science, existing belief in fairies and whales, the faith of culture, the credulity of ignorance, the old-time Welsh fairyland, the Fairy King, the legend of St. Colin and Gwyn ap Nudd, the green meadows of the sea, fairies at market, the land of mystery. 1. With regard to other divisions of the field of folklore, the views of scholars differ, but in the realm of fairy these differences are reconciled. It is agreed that fairy tales are relics of the ancient mythology, and the philosophers stroll hand in hand harmoniously. This is as it should be, in a realm about which cluster such delightful memories of the most poetic period of life, childhood, before skepticism has crept in as ignorance slinks out. The knowledge which introduced skepticism is infinitely more valuable than the faith it displaced, but in spite of that, there be few among us who have not felt evanescent regrets for the displacement by the foi scientifique of the old faith in fairies. There is something so peculiarly fascinating in that old belief that, once upon a time, the world was less practical in its facts than now, less commonplace and humdrum, less subject to the inexorable laws of gravitation, optics, and the like. What dramas it has yielded, what poems, what dreams, what delights. But since the knowledge of our maturer years destroys all that, it is with a degree of satisfaction we can turn to the consolations of the fairy mythology. The beloved tales of old are not true, but at least they are not mere idle nonsense, and they have a good and sufficient reason for being in the world. We may continue to respect them. The wit who observed that the final cause of fairy legends is to afford sport for people who ruthlessly track them to their origin, expressed a grave truth in jocular form. Since one can no longer rest in peace with one's ignorance, it is a comfort to the lover of fairy legends to find that he need not sweep them into the grate as so much rubbish. On the contrary, they become even more enchanting in the crucible of science than they were in their old character. 2. Among the vulgar in Wales, the belief in fairies is less nearly extinct than casual observers would be likely to suppose. Even educated people who dwell in Wales and have dwelt there all their lives cannot always be classed as other than casual observers in this field. There are some such residents who have paid special attention to the subject and have formed an opinion as to the extent of prevalence of popular credulity herein. But most Welsh people of the educated class, I find, have no opinion, beyond a vague surprise that the question should be raised at all. So lately as the year 1858, a learned writer in the Archaeologia Cambrensis declared that the traveler may now pass from one end of the principality to the other without his being shocked or amused, as the case may be, by any of the fairy legends or popular tales which used to pass current from father to son. But in the same periodical, 18 years later, I find Mr. John Walter Lucas, president of the Cardiff Naturalists Society, asserting with regard to the cromlechs, tumuli, and ancient camps in Glamorganshire, there are always fairy tales and ghost stories connected with them. Some, though fully believed in by the inhabitants of those localities, are often of the most absurd character. In fact, the more ridiculous they are, the more they are believed in. My own observation leads me to support the testimony of the last named witness. Educated Europeans generally conceive that this sort of belief is extinct in their own land, or at least their own immediate section of that land. They accredit such degree of belief as may remain in this enlightened age to some remote part, to the south if they dwell in the north, to the north if they dwell in the south. But especially they accredit it to a previous age, in Wales to last century, or the Middle Ages, or the days of King Arthur. The rector of Merthyr, being an elderly man, accredits it to his youth. I am old enough to remember, he wrote me under date of January 30th, 1877, that these tales were thoroughly believed in among country folk 40 or 50 years ago. People of superior culture have held this kind of faith concerning fairy lore, it seems to me, in every age, except the more remote. Chaucer held it almost 5 centuries ago, and wrote, "In old days of the King Arthur, all is this land fulfilled of fairy. I speak of many 100 years ago, but now can no man see non elves moon." Dryden held it 200 years later, and said of the fairies, "I speak of ancient times, for now the swain, returning late, may pass the woods in vain, and never hope to see the nightly train." In all latter days, other authors have written the same sort of thing. It is not thus now, they say, but it was recently thus. The truth probably is that if you will but sink down to the level of common life, of ignorant life, especially in rural neighborhoods, there you will find the same old beliefs prevailing in about the same degree to which they have ever prevailed within the past 500 years. To sink to this level successfully, one must become a living unit in that life, as I have done in Wales and elsewhere from time to time. Then one will hear the truth from, or at least the true sentiments of, the class he seeks to know. The practice of every generation in thus relegating fairy belief to a date just previous to its own does not apply, however, to superstitious beliefs in general, for concerning many such beliefs, their greater or less prevalence at certain dates, as in the history of witchcraft, is matter of well ascertained fact. I confine the argument for the present strictly to the domain of fairy. In this domain, the prevalent belief in Wales may be said to rest with the ignorant, to be strongest in rural and mining districts, to be childlike and poetic, and to relate to anywhere except the spot where the speaker dwells, as to the next parish, to the next county, to the distant mountains, or to the shadowland of Gordon-o-Leon, the green meadows of the sea. 3. In Arthur's day, and before that, the people of South Wales regarded North Wales as preeminently the land of fairy. In the popular imagination, that distant country was the chosen abode of giants, monsters, magicians, and all the creatures of enchantment. Out of it came the fairies on their visits to the sunny land of the south. The chief philosopher of that enchanted region was a giant who sat on a mountain peak and watched the stars. It had a wizard monarch called Gwydion, who possessed the power of changing himself into the strangest possible forms. The peasant who dwelt on the shores of Dyfed, Demedia, saw in the distance, beyond the blue waves of the ocean, shadowy mountain summits piercing the clouds and guarding this mystic region in solemn majesty. Thence rolled down upon him the storm clouds of the home of the tempest. Thence streamed up the winter sky the flaming banners of the northern lights. Thence rose through the illimitable darkness on high the star-strewn pathway of the Fairy King. These details are current in the Mabinogion, those brilliant stories of Welsh enchantment so gracefully done into English by Lady Charlotte Guest, and it is believed that all the Mabinogion in which these details were found were written in Dyfed. This was the region of the west now covered by Pembroke, Carmarthen, and Cardigan shires. More recently than the time above indicated, special traditions have located fairyland in the Vale of Neath in Glamorganshire. Especially does a certain steep and rugged crag there, called Craig y Dinas, bear a distinctly awful reputation as a stronghold of the fairy tribe. Its caves and crevices have been their favorite haunt for many centuries, and upon this rock was held the court of the last fairies who have ever appeared in Wales. Needless to say, there are men still living who remember the visits of the fairies to Craig y Dinas, although they aver the little folk are no longer seen there. It is a common remark that the Methodists drove them away. Indeed, there are numberless stories which show the fairies to have been animated, when they were still numerous in Wales, by a cordial antipathy for all dissenting preachers. In this antipathy, it may be here observed, teetotalers were included. 4. The sovereign of the fairies, and their especial guardian and protector, was one Gwyn ap Nudd. He was also ruler over the goblin tribe in general. His name often occurs in ancient Welsh poetry. An old bard of the 14th century, who, led away by the fairies, rode into a turf bog on a mountain one dark night, called it the fish pond of Gwyn ap Nudd, a palace for goblins and their tribe. The association of this legendary character with the goblin fame of the Vale of Neath will appear when it is mentioned that Nudd in Welsh is pronounced simply Neath and not otherwise. As for the Fairy Queen, she does not seem to have any existence among Cambrian goblins. It is nevertheless thought by Cambrian etymologists that Morgana is derived from Morgwyn, the White Maid, and the Welsh proper name, Morgan, can hardly fail to be mentioned in this connection, though it is not necessarily significant. The legend of St. Colin, in which Gwyn ap Nudd figures, represents him as king of Onlin, Hell or the Shadowland, as well as of the fairies. Colin was passing a period of mortification as a hermit in a cell under a rock on a mountain. There he one day overheard two men talking about Gwyn ap Nudd, and giving him this twofold kingly character. Colin cried out to the men to go away and hold their tongues, instead of talking about devils. For this, Colin was rebuked, as the king of Fairyland had an objection to such language. The saint was summoned to meet the king on the hilltop at noon, and after repeated refusals, he finally went there. But he carried a flask of holy water with him, and when he came there, he saw the fairiest castle he had ever beheld, and around it the best appointed troops, and numbers of minstrels, and every kind of music of voice and string, and steeds with youths upon them, the comeliest in the world, and maidens of elegant aspect, sprightly, light of foot, of graceful apparel, and in the bloom of youth, and every magnificence becoming the court of a puissant sovereign. And he beheld a courteous man on the top of the castle, who bade him enter, saying that the king was waiting for him to come to meet. And Colin went into the castle, and when he came there, the king was sitting in a golden chair, and he welcomed Colin honorably, and desired him to eat, assuring him that besides what he saw, he should have the most luxurious of every dainty and delicacy that the mind could desire, and should be supplied with every drink and liquor that the heart could wish. and that there should be in readiness for him every luxury of courtesy and service, of banquet and of honorable entertainment, of rank and of presence, and every respect and welcome due to a man of his wisdom. I will not eat the leaves of the trees, said Colin. Didst thou ever see men of better equipment than these of red and blue? Asked the king. Their equipment is good enough, said Colin, for such equipment as it is. What kind of equipment is that? Said the king. Then said Colin, the red on the one part signifies burning, and the blue on the other signifies coldness. And with that, Colin drew out his flask, and threw the holy water on their heads, whereupon they vanished from his sight, so that there was neither castle nor troops, nor men, nor maidens, nor music, nor song, nor steeds, nor youths, nor banquet, nor the appearance of anything whatever but the green hillocks. 5. A third form of Welsh popular belief as to the whereabouts of fairyland corresponds with the Avalon of the Arthurian legends. The green meadows of the sea, called in the Triads Gwerdyno Leon, are the green fairy islands reposing in sunlight and beauty on ocean's calm breast. Many extraordinary superstitions survive with regard to these islands. They were supposed to be the abode of the souls of certain druids, who, not holy enough to enter the heaven of the Christians, were still not wicked enough to be condemned to the tortures of Annwn, and so were accorded a place in this romantic sort of purgatorial paradise. In the 5th century, a voyage was made by the British king Gavran in search of these enchanted islands. With his family, he sailed away into the unknown waters and was never heard of more. This voyage is commemorated in the Triads as one of the 3 losses by disappearance, the 2 others being Merlin's and Maydog's. Merlin sailed away in a ship of glass. Maydog sailed in search of America, and neither returned, but both disappeared forever. In Pembrokeshire and southern Carmarthenshire are to be found traces of this belief. There are sailors on that romantic coast who still talk of the green meadows of enchantment lying in the Irish Channel to the west of Pembrokeshire. Sometimes they are visible to the eyes of mortals for a brief space, when suddenly they vanish. There are traditions of sailors who, in the early part of the present century, actually went ashore on the fairy islands, not knowing that they were such, until they returned to their boats, when they were filled with awe at seeing the islands disappear from their sight, neither sinking in the sea nor floating away upon the waters, but simply vanishing suddenly. The fairies inhabiting these islands are said to have regularly attended the markets at Milford Haven and Logarn. They made their purchases without speaking, laid down their money and departed, always leaving the exact sum required, which they seemed to know, without asking the price of anything. Sometimes they were invisible, but they were often seen by sharp-eyed persons. There was always one special butcher at Milford Haven, upon whom the fairies bestowed their patronage, instead of distributing their favors indiscriminately. The Milford Haven folk could see the green fairy islands distinctly, lying out a short distance from land, and the general belief was that they were densely peopled with fairies. It was also said that the latter went to and fro between the islands and the shore through a subterranean gallery under the bottom of the sea. That isolated cape which forms the county of Pembroke was looked upon as a land of mystery by the rest of Wales, long after it had been settled by the Flemings in 1113. A secret veil was supposed to cover this sea-girt promontory. The inhabitants talked in an unintelligible jargon that was neither English, nor French, nor Welsh, and out of its misty darkness came fables of wondrous sort, and accounts of miracles marvelous beyond belief. Mythology and Christianity spoke together from this strange country, and one could not tell at which to be most amazed, the pagan or the priest. End of chapter 1.
Every mythology tells stories of divine power. Gods who forge the world, command the skies, and decide the fate of mortals. But if we compare them, head to head, god to god, which mythology has the strongest deities? Today we'll explore the most powerful gods from 5 major mythologies and try to answer a question humanity has wondered for thousands of years. Which gods reign supreme? 1. Greek mythology. Power with limits. The Greek gods are legendary. They live on Mount Olympus, intervene in human affairs, and wield enormous elemental power. But their strength is balanced with weakness. Key gods. Zeus, king of the gods, commands thunder and lightning. He overthrew the Titans and maintains cosmic order, but he is often deceived and even resisted by mortals. Poseidon controls the oceans and causes earthquakes. His rage could sink fleets, but he is often bound by emotion and pride. Hades rules the underworld, not evil but absolute in his domain of death. Despite their powers, the Olympians are subject to the will of the fates. 3 mysterious beings even Zeus cannot override. That alone reveals a key weakness. Their power is conditional. Influential, yes, but not unlimited. 2. Norse mythology. Power measured in sacrifice. In Norse mythology, gods are strong, but mortal. Their power lies in what they endure, not what they control. Key gods. Odin, the All-Father, trades his eye for knowledge and hangs himself from Yggdrasil to gain wisdom. He commands war, magic, and prophecy. Thor, god of thunder, wields Mjolnir, a weapon capable of leveling mountains and defeating giants. He is the ultimate warrior god. Loki, a shapeshifter and trickster, may not be physically strong, but his cunning sets Ragnarok in motion, the twilight of the gods. Norse gods are not invincible. They are destined to die. Thor kills the world serpent, Jörmungandr, only to take 9 steps before collapsing. Odin falls to Fenrir. This mythology is steeped in fate, and even strength can't escape destiny. 3. Egyptian mythology. Strength through balance and dominion. The Egyptian gods are both rulers and symbols of life, death, the cosmos, and time. They represent principles, not personalities. And in that abstraction lies their power. Key gods. Ra, the sun god, creates and sustains life. Each night, he battles the serpent Apophis in the underworld to ensure the sun rises again. Osiris, lord of the afterlife, governs resurrection and judgment. He was torn apart and restored by Isis, whose magical abilities rival any god in mythology. Horus, the falcon-headed sky god, avenges his father Osiris by defeating Set and establishing divine kingship. Egyptian gods maintain Ma'at, universal balance. Their strength comes from cosmic purpose. Ra must rise, Osiris must judge, Isis must protect. These gods are less about raw power and more about eternal function. 4. Hindu mythology. Infinite, formless, and supreme. In Hindu mythology, gods are not confined to one body or realm. They exist simultaneously in different forms, avatars and universes. Their strength is not just physical, it's existential. Key gods. Shiva, the destroyer and regenerator, embodies time, transformation, and ultimate stillness. As Mahadeva, he performs the Tandava, a cosmic dance that ends and renews creation. Vishnu, the preserver, descends in avatars like Rama and Krishna to restore balance. He contains within him all beings and all worlds. Durga and Kali, warrior goddesses, slay demons that even the male gods cannot defeat. Kali's form is so powerful that only Shiva can calm her rage. These gods don't just act within the universe, they are the universe. Brahman, the ultimate reality, manifests through them. In terms of raw scale, Hindu gods operate on a multi-dimensional, timeless level. Their strength is infinite because they are not separate from creation. They are creation. Aindavda, Mesopotamian mythology, chaos and the gods of origins. Mesopotamian mythology is older than most. Its gods are elemental, forces of wind, water, chaos, and war. Their stories are less about morality and more about cosmic struggle. Key gods: Tiamat, the primordial goddess of chaos and saltwater, gives birth to the first generation of gods and is slain by her own offspring. Marduk, storm god of Babylon, defeats Tiamat and forms the world from her broken body. His power becomes supreme, shaping order from chaos. Enlil, god of wind and command, was feared more than loved, able to wipe out humanity with storms. The Mesopotamian gods are raw, unpredictable, and symbolic of ancient fears: floods, storms, night, and death. Their strength is primal, before the idea of law or justice took shape. It depends on how we define strength. Greek gods are powerful, but emotional and flawed. Norse gods are noble, but doomed. Egyptian gods preserve balance. Mesopotamian gods represent primal chaos. But Hindu deities transcend all of it. They create, destroy, recreate. Their power isn't temporary or even eternal, it's limitless. So if we're asking who's strongest, we may already have our answer.
Tonight, you will walk with me into the Elysian fields. A place of peace, a place of golden twilight, a place where every step carries you deeper into calm. You stand at the edge of the fields. The air is warm, carrying the fragrance of blossoms that never fade. A gentle breeze brushes across your skin, soft as silk. Before you, endless meadows shimmer in golden light. The grasses move in waves, rising and falling, as though the land itself is breathing with you. You take your first step. The earth beneath your feet is soft, springy, and alive. It welcomes you. Step by step, you enter the Elysian fields. The path winds forward, lined with tall reeds that whisper in the breeze. They bend gently, as if bowing in greeting. The sky above glows with colors that never fade: violet, rose, and gold, an eternal sunset stretched across eternity. You walk slowly. There is no rush here. There is no destination. Each step feels like a release, each breath like a soft exhale, dissolving the weight of the day. Soon, you hear water. A brook flows gently to your left, its surface smooth as glass. It reflects the endless twilight, as though you are walking between two skies. You pause to listen. The water trickles softly over smooth stones. A lullaby written by the fields themselves. A white bird glides above the brook. Its wings shimmer with light, and for a moment, it seems to carry a piece of the sunset upon its feathers. It drifts silently away. The path curves again, leading into a wide meadow. Here, the flowers stretch endlessly in every direction. Roses, lilies, violets, blossoms in shades no earthly eye has ever seen. You reach down to touch one. It leans into your hand willingly, as though it recognizes you. Its petals are softer than silk. Its fragrance is sweet, timeless, eternal. A breeze passes through the meadow. The flowers sway together, a sea of color, rising and falling in rhythm with your breath. Inhale. Exhale. You are in perfect harmony with this place. As you continue walking, you notice a grove of silver trees in the distance. Their branches reach high, their leaves glowing softly in the twilight. You follow the path toward them, drawn gently, effortlessly. When you arrive, the air changes. It is cooler here, quieter, as though the grove is a sanctuary within a sanctuary. The leaves rustle softly above you. The sound is like whispers, but not of words, only of peace. You rest beneath the trees. The ground is soft with moss, cushioning you perfectly. As you sit, you feel the weight of the day sliding from your shoulders, falling away into the earth. Here, there is no past, no future, only this moment. You close your eyes and listen. The Elysian fields breathe with you. When you rise again, you feel lighter, calmer, deeply at ease. The path carries you onward, leading you gently back into the open meadows. Now the fields glow more brightly. The grasses shine like threads of gold. The sky deepens into shades of violet and indigo. In the distance, a hill rises, bathed in warm light. You walk toward it slowly, each step heavier with relaxation, each breath deeper, each moment softer. The climb is easy, almost like floating upward. The air grows still, the silence grows deeper. At the top, you pause. Behind you, the Elysian fields stretch endlessly. Flowers, rivers, silver groves, and meadows glowing beneath the eternal sunset. It feels infinite. It feels eternal. It feels like home. You turn back to the hilltop. There, a soft resting place waits for you. A bed of grass, warm and inviting, as though shaped for you alone. You lie down. The sky above opens wide, filled with stars. They shine softly, pulsing faintly, as though each star is breathing with you. The breeze drifts gently over your skin. The earth holds you perfectly. The silence deepens. Your eyes grow heavy. Your breath slows. The Elysian fields hold you, carry you, keep you safe. And now, there's no path, no journey, only peace. The fields dissolve into starlight. Your body sinks into stillness. Your mind drifts into dreams. Good night. Tonight, I will take you on a quiet journey, a dreamy walk through a labyrinth. Not a maze to confuse you, but a gentle path, winding and endless, designed only to help you drift into calm. Imagine now, standing at the edge of an ancient stone labyrinth. The night sky above is painted with silver stars. The air is cool and soft with the scent of wild herbs and earth. The path before you glows faintly, as though the stones remember the footsteps of all who have walked here before. This labyrinth is timeless. It has no beginning and no end, only a winding journey inward and a winding journey back. You take your first slow step. Your feet fall gently on the smooth stones. Each step feels like a soft exhale, releasing tension, inviting peace. The path curves gently to the left, then to the right. There is no rush. There is no destination. As you walk, the walls rise up on either side, ancient stones covered in ivy. But they do not close you in. They guide you. They hold you. Moonlight spills down, lighting your way. Every few steps, you notice something small and beautiful. A pale flower blooming between stones. A tiny moth fluttering quietly by. The sound of a distant nightbird calling once, then fading back into silence. Step after step, turn after turn, you walk deeper into stillness. The labyrinth shifts around you, but it does not confuse you. It feels more like breathing, in and out, left and right, winding and unwinding. As you walk, you begin to sense whispers in the stones, not frightening, just gentle, ancient voices, telling you that you are safe, that you are welcome here. Your body grows heavier with each step. Your shoulders soften, your breath slows. The deeper you go, the softer the world becomes. The air feels like velvet. The ground feels like floating. Time itself begins to dissolve, as if the labyrinth holds no clocks, no urgency, only endless night. At last, you arrive at the quiet center. It is a small circle, open to the sky. Here, the walls fall away, and you see only the vast stars above. They glimmer faintly, almost as if they are breathing with you. In the center stands a pool of still water, so clear that it reflects the sky like a perfect mirror. You sit beside it, resting. The silence here is deep, gentle, and endless. You lean back, and the ground cradles you like soft moss. Every part of you feels held, weightless, and safe. After a long pause, you rise slowly and step back onto the path. The labyrinth guides you outward again. But now, each curve, each turn, feels softer than before. Your eyes grow heavy. Your body drifts between walking and dreaming. You hardly notice your own steps, only the rhythm, the calm, the release. The labyrinth fades into mist. The stars above dim gently, like lanterns being blown out one by one. And now, there's no path, no walls, no center, only you, floating in endless quiet. Your breath deepens, your body sinks into rest, and the labyrinth carries you into sleep. Good night.